On the 7th of November 2020, the Spirit Specialist opened its doors, well, door, to the public for the very first time. Just a few days after the UK went into a second lockdown, I launched a new retail business offering some of the world's most exciting spirits to a general public who basically couldn't leave the house. From day one, I always said that if I could make it to a year operating with the door still open and some money still in the bank, even if it was just a fiver, I could consider that a success. And so here we are, just a couple of weeks away from the shop's first birthday. To celebrate this anniversary, I'd like to present you my nominations for the Spirit Specialist Spirits of the Year 2021, those particular bottles that have stood out for me personally. Every single product sold in the shop I sample before bringing it in to ensure it's of a high standard and good value to you, the customer. And given the time of year, maybe these nominations will give you some ideas for presents in the run up to Christmas, or even just a little treat for yourself. On the weekend of our first birthday, I'll upload a new video in which I announce the winners. But for now, here's the nominations for the World Whisky of the Year. Hello there. It's me, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist. How are you? I'm fine, thank you very much for asking. So, we shall look at the nominations that I've put forward, because it is just me, for the World Whisky of the Year. Now, I am separating Scotch, because it's probably the biggest whiskey market in the world. And I'm also going to separate American, because I'm a big fan of American whiskies, and as you can probably see behind me, my American whiskey is pretty big. So I've got 4 shelves of American whiskey. You can only see 3 on the camera. Whereas the World Whisky, apart from Scotch, which is like over there, the World Whisky is slightly less, because I'm struggling to get some stock, to be perfectly honest, slightly less than my entire American whiskey selection. So we're going to do World Whisky as one category. We're going to do American, and then we're going to do Scotch as well. So the first nomination for the World Whisky, not including Scotch and American, is ABASOLO Corn Whiskey. So, from Mexico, and I've had this since day one, from one of my suppliers who I know very well. Their sales manager, who was about to move to another supplier, who I also know very well, is an absolutely lovely bloke. Looking through there, and I thought, oh, corn whiskey sounds interesting. And it looks kind of cool. I quite like the bottle. This sounds very, very interesting indeed. Got a sample of it before I ordered it in, tried it, absolutely blew me away. Didn't really know what to expect. And corn whiskey is a big thing in America. You know, bourbon has to be a minimum of 51% corn. There aren't many straight corn whiskies. We've got, it's out of shop, but I've got mellow corn up there. I've got the Balcones Baby Blue. That's pretty much it. So corn whiskey, although it's an integral part of American whiskey, you don't often get full corn whiskies because it tends to be quite sweet. This is something else. This is unlike any whiskey that I have had before, and that is one of the main reasons it's one of my nominations, because it has put a completely different spin on a whiskey as a flavour profile. There is so much going on in here. It evokes a Mexican landscape, weirdly, but if you've watched my review video for this, I don't know if that is just me being slightly stereotypical of Mexico and my impressions of Mexico, because I've never been, so it's based purely on my impressions of seeing Mexico in films and TV and everything like that. But it evokes a dry, dusty landscape on the nose, but then on the palate you get this amazing kind of like slightly charred corn on the cob. There's a bit of caramel in there, there's a light touch to it. Now I have put this on a few World Whisky tasting events, and it is very much split the room. I do have a tasting bottle in store, and I do encourage people to try it before they buy it, because this is a very unique whiskey, a very unique flavour profile that some people don't get. When I've done it on the tastings, it's absolutely split the room. There have been people that go, oh, this is brilliant, I love it, it's really different, it's really unusual, and there have been other people going, no, this is not working for me at all. The people that love it because they like something different, they like something unusual. This is as far removed from Scotch as you can possibly get, and that is why I love it, and that is absolutely why it is one of my nominations for World Whisky of the Year, because there's nothing else out there, I think, that's like this. So the second nomination is FILEY Peated Finish. So I probably could have done a video on the entire FILEY range and done like FILEY release of the year, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if you include the cream liqueur, 9 because there's another one coming out fairly soon on my shelf. But I've got to pick one of these because it's going in the World Whisky category, and the peated finish is the one that did it for me. I really like FILEY Bay. I'm so happy to see how well it's doing, because if you've seen any of my FILEY Bay videos, I have a bit of a vested personal interest in it, because the master distiller Joe, his first job in the whiskey industry was working for me at the whiskey shop in York. And I was really intrigued to see how this one in particular would fare, because they have a number of other finishes, STR, Moscatel, the IPA that's just come out, the Yorkshire Day where they go sherry matured as opposed to bourbon matured, takes it in a completely different direction, and they're all excellent. And as usual, you know, new whiskey, people go, oh, where's your heavily peated version? And they're not using peated barley. So the way to do a peated version was to finish it in casks. Now, there is not a, there's no agreement with Kilchoman, but these are Kilchoman casks that have been used in this first batch. But it isn't, they've not done a partnership with Kilchoman. It is literally, Joe went out looking for casks from an Islay distillery that he could source to be able to put some of the flagship, essentially, their standard core bottling, into and do a finish of it. This time round, it happened to be Kilchoman. The next batch that they do, it might be Lefroy, it might be Bruichladdich. It literally is, what can he get his hands on that is a fair price, that there's enough casks, that sort of thing. So don't get too happy about the fact that this is Kilchoman. It is just, I mean, I'd really be interested to see if it's something like Lefroy, what the difference is compared to this. And it could have gone not totally wrong, but it could have been either not influential enough or too influential. And what I love about the peated finish in particular is the balance. It's using that house style, that creamy, slightly citrusy house style that they have from their bourbon maturation, and adding that slightly ashy feel that you can tell it's Kilchoman, weirdly. You can actually kind of pick up the characteristics of Kilchoman, which is more of an ashy smokiness, more of a kind of like embers of a barbecue, but not quite as sweet. You know, barbecue I associate with Lechec on the Isle of Mull. It's more barbecue ashiness, whereas Kilchoman is slightly drier ashiness, but it is there, and it's that sweetness, that creaminess, as well as that smokiness, that's gentle, that's soft, that's delicate, that makes this incredibly drinkable, but also a great introduction to people that either don't like peated whiskey or don't know where to start with peated whiskey. I'm so impressed with what Joe's managed to achieve here, not just in terms of the production of the whiskey, but also his skill at looking at the finishing, looking at what the cask is doing, and basically pulling it out at exactly the right time. It's a stunning whiskey. I was so pleased that this one in particular worked, because this was the one I was worried about. This was the one I was concerned might not work and might end up being the weakest. And actually, out of their entire range, although 2021 Yorkshire Day, because I do like a sherry bomb, is a close second, this is, for me personally, I think the best one of their entire range. It's an absolute belter. So that's the second nomination. The third is MACKMYRA BJORKSAV. So, MACKMYRA, Swedish single malt, cracking distillery, still relatively young, quite forward thinking, like playing around with cask maturation, that sort of thing. And BJORKSAV is Swedish for birch sap. So there is a proportion of the maturation in here, of the whiskey, has been matured in birch sap wine casks. And this was released in, oh God, was it March, April? And it was essentially evoking spring. And I was like, oh, okay, right, well, we'll see. You know, it's a bit of a bold claim going, oh, we're evoking spring through the flavors of a whiskey. And actually it does, it really does. There's a lovely, delicate fragrancy to this. It's light, it's soft, it's slightly floral, but not too floral. It's eminently drinkable. You can actually use this quite well in some whiskey cocktails as well, where you want a slightly lighter touch. But even just drinking it on its own, even lightly chilled, it's absolutely stunning stuff. I was so impressed with this. There's been a few MACKMYRA of their kind of like cask finishes where they've done quite a lot, and some of them have worked and some of them haven't. And it's sort of, your mileage will vary depending on what your personal kind of like preferences are. You know, the SPRITS, which is the Amarone finish, is one of my all-timers, and unfortunately that's completely gone. There's been a couple of others where I'm like, you know, the Appleblom, which is the Calvados cask, I sort of struggled with, and there was another one, I can't even remember the name of it, where I was like, I'm not too sure about this. And this could have gone either way, because this could have been too light, too fluffy, too floral, and that would have switched me off. Or it wouldn't have had any kind of influence of birch sap, and it would just taste like a bog standard MACKMYRA. But they've really got the balance brilliantly well. It's so drinkable. It does evoke spring as well. It's light, and you know, I'm filming this in October, and it's probably not quite suited for drinking at this time of year. wait till after Christmas, as you know, the grass is starting to go, the days are getting longer. But you know, that time of year, it does exactly what it says on the tin, and it does what they've set out to do. So absolutely, this is a nomination. Great whiskey, great distillery, and they've done what they set out to achieve. So that's the third nomination. The fourth and final World Whisky of the Year nomination is Starward Left Field. So, single malt Australian whiskey. I'm a big fan of the band Left Field, so as soon as I saw the name, I was like, right, well, I'm hoping this is going to be an absolute banger like the band's music were. And this has replaced what was called Twofold. So Twofold was available, I did have on the shop, and that was, Twofold was malt and grain whiskey, whereas this is a single malt. What I love about Starward is they are absolutely upfront in terms of the whiskey that they're trying to make. This is not aged, soft, rich, full, fruity whiskey to be drunk in front of a roaring log fire. This is young whiskey, matured in red wine casks, that is to be drunk with friends, ideally at a barbecue or at a dinner table. If you want to put it in cocktails, absolutely put it in cocktails. If you want to drink it neat, drink it out the fridge. Treat it almost like a wine that you would have with friends. That is exactly what they are making with this whiskey. That is what they're trying to do, and I love their honesty about it. I love the fact they're being so upfront in terms of, look, if you want like a roaring log fire, malty, rich, full-on whiskey that's been aged for 20 years with all the history and blah, 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 fill your boots, it's over there, do what you want. But this is for friends, for young drinkers, if you want to put it in cocktails, but it's good enough to drink on its own. And that's what I like about some of these whiskies. There are some whiskies out there that have been like, we're making them for cocktails, and a lot of brands are doing it now. They're trying to get the young people, you know, Hay Club was one of the forefathers of this in terms of it's for young people, it's for non-whiskey drinkers, it's for people that drink it in cocktails. The problem with them was they had no bloody flavour. They were just boring. They were trying to be as safe as bloody possible to try and to appeal as many people as they possibly could. What's now starting to happen is that there are some of these distilleries, and new ones like Starward, that are going, yes, we want to appeal to younger drinkers, but we're not going to try to appeal to everybody because we're going to lose character. So this has bags of character. Matured fully in Australian red wine casks, so you get a lovely fruitiness in there, and actually the youthfulness of the spirit really works with those red wine casks, and you do get more fruity elements coming through. Again, works brilliantly with cocktails, but actually drinking it neat, you know, lightly chilled actually works really well. But even, you know, it's got that fruity character that actually just drinking a dram at the end of the night before you go to bed is just as pleasant as it is. So yeah, I keep wanting to say Star Wars, but it's not, it's Starward, Left Field. A much deserved final nomination for my World Whisky of the Year. So those are the 4 nominations. I will be announcing I will be announcing the winner in one final video, which will be uploaded across the weekend of our 1st anniversary, which is on the 7th of November. So hopefully I'll see you at the final video. And if you want to check out the other nomination videos for the rest of the characters, what am I talking about? If you want to check out the nominations for the rest of the categories, then hopefully I'll see you there. Cheers.